there's so much, to this process, just a really evolutionary process, very life-changing. I have definitely grown so much throughout the process. I've come to really understand what people mean when they say ayahuasca is the medicine that keeps on giving. I felt complete with the container in that time frame anyway, when I felt like I was driving the boat, like I could sit in the seat of like, okay, I've got this.
Hello and welcome back to our podcast, Ayahuasca Avatars. And before we dive in with Nell today, if you are interested to be trained as an psychedelic integration facilitator, we have one more space to grab this year and take advantage of the $5,000 discount. So check it out on my website, avatarhealingarts.com, and just get in touch with me if you feel this call. Okay, so welcome, my dear sister. Thank you for accepting this invitation to the podcast.
Oh, thank you. My honor.
I'm excited because Nell did my 15 months long ayahuasca assisted therapy training, but she herself is a therapist and works with plant medicine and psychedelics and quite intimately. So it's even more interesting, this journey and hear, your experience. So I'm just super stoked to dive into that. And thank you for being so courageous, to share in the open space.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's nice to be able to like talk about it and put it all together and yeah, see how it can help others in one way or another.
Definitely. So we started early last year, as I remember, in 2023 with the program. Can you recall now what was that drew you to plant medicine, to ayahuasca specifically, and then to do the whole program, which is a way bigger undertaking than just to go to a medicine ceremony?
Yeah, well, throughout the years, I've known many people to talk about their ayahuasca experiences and working with psychedelic medicines as other medicines. I'm a ketamine practitioner, therapist, a mushroom facilitator, and an MDMA facilitator, trained to be so anyway. And I had not had an ayahuasca experience, and there was something like kind of some deeper work that I knew I had been kind of like unable to get to. And I also had some level of, I don't know if the word crisis it's not really true, but I was finding difficulty kind of just like functioning in my everyday life in some ways because of this block per se. And so opportunities started to reveal themselves to me with the medicine. And I was just really, you'll hear some people say I was called to the medicine. Well, I don't know that I like heard a call, but like I certainly felt like, okay, this is a good time for me. This is a time when I can be open and learn about what this medicine has for me.
Absolutely, definitely. The calling cannot just be like an audio thing, that we literally hear. But as you say, it's like oftentimes like an irresistible feel, pull to go to a certain direction. And it's certainly my experience that this particular medicine really able to help us to go to the root of the problem. So even though you did a lot of work, like with other modalities, with other medicines, before, but you were still feeling that there is some residue that maybe you were not able to access or touch, right?
Mhm.
For that. I remember, that when you went to well, first of all, it was interesting because you remember that the ceremony kept being canceled, that you were already signed up, and then twice they canceled, or I can't remember how it went. Do you remember?
It's not quite clear to me, but I do know that like it got, or I switched into a different journey. Maybe there was something I wasn't ready yet. I know that I also got I got COVID at the psychedelic science conference, which knocked me out. And that was shortly before the ceremony that I had settled into. And then I couldn't go to that. So there was like a kind of a clunky way to get there, but it all really worked out well because I came to Mexico, and
Yeah.
you
It's
helped
always,
me
the
find.
perfect timing and the perfect way,
Yeah.
and yeah, I recall, yeah, you were sick one time, and I think the next time they rescheduled it or they moved the time or something.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, that is interesting because oftentimes resistance shows up, in weird ways, when we are say that yes and make that commitment, there is a part of us who's like, oh, not ready for that yet, but
Uh-huh.
it all turned out greatly, as you said, because you were able to come down here to Mexico and work with the circle that I'm working with. So you remember, the main takeaway from the ceremonies, because I recall that you were a little bit disappointed with that message that you got the first time.
Yes, if I may just kind of like walk through that a little bit. I had one serving of the medicine while in ceremony, and felt the medicine come on a little bit, and then it went away. And then the window opened, and I took another drink of the medicine. Again, kind of had a little bit more of the experience, but then it went away. And so a third drink brought more of the medicine in, and yet still it wasn't what I has kind of publicized as an ayahuasca experience. And so yeah, I did feel like I got, some good information, but those kind of unconscious expectations, I think, really played a role in how I perceived the experience originally. And I'm so grateful that I was working with you so that we could see the real gifts in the experience throughout the integration process. So what I did end up fairly shortly after, the way I learned to talk about it was that I have mother wounding, and grandmother or Mother Ayahuasca was very gentle with me. She introduced herself, lovingly, kindly, gently, and showed herself to me at first, and then she came back because I invited her back with the second drink. And then, started to kind of like interact with me a little bit and make sure that I was, fully wanting to be there, and was, consensual per se, to that process. And then, in the third cup, she really showed me like how much weight I was carrying on my own shoulders, how much of other people's stuff I was holding, including my family's, my mother's, my biological mother, along with family and clients and such. And so that was the biggest message, was that I was holding way too much, and that I kind of needed to learn how to offload all of that with her support, and your support, of course.
Thank you for mentioning this, because I think it's so common, that people have this expectation, especially with the psychedelic renaissance, and
Mm.
we do have that irrealistic expectation that everything will be answered, everything will be fixed overnight,
Yeah.
even though we say don't have expectations, but we do have automatically, so it's okay. But as you pointed it out, sometimes those expectations can blind us to see the real gifts that we are receiving, because just because we are not receiving what we were kind of hoping for or expecting, we are not noticing, the real things that are coming
Yeah.
through. So So I remember, that one of the messages that you received was just, quite general to love yourself more. And you were like again, this was a message that you received before, like multiple times, not necessarily from this medicine, but in other ways of healing. And it seems, something that seems so simple and so quite easy to do. It's really not easy and not simple, as it turns out. And we talked about it, how this medicine works is that it will bring up what is not in alignment with what you are asking for. So in this case, what is not loving, what are the ways that we are not loving ourselves, not honoring ourselves for truth, and that's kind of the material that we are kind of unpacking in the integration process. Do you remember what were the things that were pointed out to you in the integration process as the bigger areas where you were still not loving, and accepting towards yourself, and it really came out, okay, this is an area that I need to work on a little bit more?
Well, initially it was I had taken some time off post ceremony to really just be with everything that was part of my experience, and I needed it anyway. So I learned that, well, the steps I took in the beginning were more around like just taking time for myself, not working or not doing house duties or not like being with family or friends, or anything like that. Just going into nature and sitting, those kinds of, I don't, being. It's like just being, right? Like that's what I was really learning again how to do. It was so very much needed, and I really worked towards finding nature places I hadn't been before, and really just learning to sit with myself in some silence, sit with the earth. That helps me to feel grounded and centered. And I used like that whole month, basically, or however long it was, to really just practice that, being with me, because I had been so very distracted for years before. So the evolution of that, though, started to become, more evident around how else I was in disservice to myself. Boundaries, not really being in touch with my anger. Those are the biggest things. Those were the biggest things. And I found that I was really being silent when I needed to speak up, and really holding on to emotions and not really processing even the ones for myself. So yeah, with all of that, I really came to understand that I needed to be with me way more than I ever realized.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I think a lot of women probably can relate, probably men too, but this boundary issue, I think it's more stronger for for women for obvious reasons. And as you said, the way we honor and respect ourselves, and one of our go-to behavior is kind of self-sacrifice. It's very common for women. We are raised this way. We are kind of expected. And especially in your case, being a therapist, being in service to others, being a healer, it's even more magnified. And I remember, that this came out that one of your biggest fear was hurting others. Of course, it goes against your mission, your destiny, which is to be in service, to help others. And sometimes we need more clarification of understanding what does that really mean? What is really help? What is really service? What is self-sacrifice? How can we honor ourselves and still be in service, and find that very healthy balance, especially being, a therapist. And this was just such a huge kind of bundle, that we kept unpacking for quite a long time. And I'm sure, it's an ongoing process as it is for myself as well, being in the same area. Oftentimes, when we are going through the integration, our process plays out in real life. And I always say this to my clients that don't expect that you just come to the session and you do the work and then go back to your normal life. But your life is going to be in a little bit of upheaval. And if we, in our close relationships with our partner, with our family, with our, very close friends, those dynamics playing out that we are working with, and that can be challenging, in the moment, but it is a blessing, right, in long term. So how was that experience for you, like experiencing this in real time?
Well, I've come to really understand what people mean when they say ayahuasca is the medicine that keeps on giving. I think that, I really see integration processes as layered, right? And even healing process or therapeutic processes, like just so many layers, right? That the layers of the onion are really, really thin, but they make a difference. Each time we pull a layer off, or it's released, then we get a clearer perspective. And the unpacking, I've come to also know that like I loop around my wounding. And so, we would make a little progress and then I would loop back and get stuck again a little bit, and this is why I, am so, thankful that I had someone to support me, because we need others. In this case, you were there to reflect, hey, here's this loop again, and noticing that I was stuck in some story or something to that effect, and really loosening it again. And I lost track of the question, so kind of like let me know if I'm not answering it.
No, you
uh,
are absolutely answering. It's just,
okay.
as you said, we need those mirrors outside, because it's very difficult to notice our blind spots, even though you are a trained therapist yourself. But it's when it's about you, it's harder to see, it's much more obvious when you are looking at somebody's story from the outside
Right.
for sure, and then the close relationships becomes mirrors as well, that are really showing, and it can be difficult, to experience your whole process playing out in your primary relationships. Like how was that for you, and how could you navigate, these challenges?
Well, I work with archetypal kind of energies, and so I really was working with the Great Mother, and Grandmother Ayahuasca included, right? Like all of the mothers of the archetypal energies, and really, I think that helped me to reorganize my idea around mother, because so that wounding from my biological mother started to get reorganized in the integration process. And throughout like the process, I was having a lot of conflict with my husband, and would had some depression off and on, and kind of like navigating different waves of the healing process. And so having this new idea of motherly support really helped to hold my process on a larger level. And for me, that's very needed, because I find safety in my spiritual context. So as I was, navigating conflict with my husband, finding new ways to set boundaries, finding new ways to ask for what I need, her gentle energy allowed me to find more gentleness with myself and with my husband in this particular way.
Thank you. Yeah, the real meaning of love. We started to experience what is love. And we did work a lot with rewiring, belief systems and core
Mhm.
beliefs and limiting
Yes,
beliefs, and
yes.
working on the level of the mind, and especially a subconscious, that were, surfacing surfacing, and I remember we worked a lot around, what is love, what is not love, what is service, what is sacrifice, to really clarify for yourself, because oftentimes we grow up with definitions that are not healthy or not serving us, and we are just accepting it as normal, right?
Mhm.
Certain behaviors we accepting is normal. We started to look into of what is toxic and what is healthy expression of both the feminine and then the masculine energy, to be able to discern better, because really often, we just take things, oh, this is just like this, or men are just like that, and this is something I need to accept and just go with. But there was a lot of clarity, created, and I think, that you had so much more awareness, and that's what, the medicine helps us with, to increase that awareness and that clarity, so we can make the right choices. Do you feel that this was true for you?
Absolutely. I mean, part of those layers I was talking about earlier were these like assumptions or beliefs or conditioning, that I came to recognize more clearly. And I think that it's so like there's so much, to this process, that it's kind of almost like hard for me I thank you for remembering all these little pieces and parts, because wow, there was just so much of just a really evolutionary process. So it's hard for me to speak to every little thing, but it instrumental, like still very life-changing, even though I didn't have this really big experience in the ceremony, I have definitely grown so much throughout the process. And I still have work to do, like I have grown immensely in self-awareness. Not only just like mental chatter and like analyzing and all the things that I'm kind of used to doing or have as a gift, actually, seeing things, intuiting things, but also myself, right? Like being way more in touch with my emotional content, my inner landscape, even my body, which I have, not really been associated with because of some of my own personal traumas. But I've really come into myself through this process.
So beautiful. I have some notes, because I wanted to, remember certain specific things. And, there's a couple of things that you shared towards the end of the process as a special takeaway that I want to just read it for you if you want to talk into any of the points. But I thought that was such a beautiful summary, because as you said, we all hold these old stories of the trauma and what happened, and we keep carrying those things, even though part of us wants to let go, but another part is just insisting, to hold that pain a little longer. This process is really excellent to make us see that, and make us aware that you can let go. It's okay to let it go now and to choose something different. So some things that you shared with me were: pleasure is true love, healing is true love, and salvation is true love, not sacrifice, which was the old right
Yeah.
pattern. The toxic masculine is unsafe, but the healthy masculine is protective.
Hmm.
From ancestral wounds come also ancestral wisdom and resilience. That was so beautiful. I getting chills, still reading it. I am grateful. I accepted my past and my heart softened. I choose to be the hero and not a victim anymore. I love myself enough to say no if I feel something I don't want. I feel like a different person, more authentic. I have better self-care, more love toward myself, more awareness, and I feel more empowered. Sorry, some noise. And I feel more safe. I can discern what is good for me. I can assert myself in a more healthy way. And I feel that I moved out of stuckness, especially in relationships, certain relationships, and I have better tools to handle the challenges. So I thought that was like a good summary of that tremendous work that you accomplished. Is there anything that you would like to speak into?
Oh, wow. Yeah. I think something really big was this part of me that took all the blame from others, from my family. I just internalized a lot of blame in my family of origin. I played a number of roles in my family of origin, not just one. And so when things went wrong there, it was my fault because I was supposed to be the perfect one, the responsible one, the hero, all the things. So that was just one role, but I've really learned not to internalize things that other people are dealing with or working with. I've also learned not to internalize the things that happened to me, in the past, and really separate all of that out, has helped give me a sense of spaciousness. As well as like, because I was blamed, I noticed that I was blaming others right away, as a way to kind of like offload some of the internalization. And so I've really worked hard to catch myself in those urges to blame someone else for how I'm feeling or interpreting things. While people, especially like my husband, we're close, or a friend or anything like that, but I see it most in my home. That I can separate like what's mine and what's his. And that has been immensely healing, and has helped me keep that alignment with self that I was so longing for before I went into ceremony.
Yes, so beautiful. And we always say, at least I say, that this is a medicine of love. If you want to love yourself more and return to that state of love, this is definitely medicine, can help us with that. And you described so beautifully that love is really, taking, first of all, taking responsibility, as you're talking about, for your part and your choices, whatever they may be. And with this responsibility automatically comes power, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people want the power but don't want to take the responsibility. It's not possible to be empowered without taking responsibility for it. So that was a big part of the process, to take that responsibility and then to take your power back and choose love over
Mhm.
sacrifice, over self-punishment, going against yourself. It's like using that awareness that we receive, through this journey, and able to make more conscious choice that are more loving, right? And to say yes to love, and to say no to those things that I observe that we are doing, sometimes in the name of love, because we were confused what is love. And the other thing you mentioned about this enmeshment, that we also have in close relationships, and sometimes it's so confusing, and it's hard to say what is mine, what is the other person's, and then you're trying to work on the other person's issue that is like not gonna happen. So that's also, super important, that once we are taking this responsibility and we are able to discern that this is my stuff, but this is not mine. So, how can I help you? But that's your business to deal with it, right?
Yes. I'll speak to the love piece more, if I may. I've also realized, that like I had a very skewed idea of love, not only from my family of origin, but also from, movies and media and other people talking, and, all the things where we get our information from. And I also, was aimed at like having this healthy relationship that I try to help others have. And the realization was that like that's available, that healthy, secure, functioning relationship is available, but like not to all of us right away. There's these stages that we have to evolve through and mature through and everything, and come to a place where you, myself, and a partners like can like create the kind of love and relationship that works for us. And instead of trying to cookie cutter myself into this idea of what relationship is supposed to be, there was also like a lot of mistrust that I was having around love. I wanted it so badly, for many years. others, and I didn't know how to have it. And so when I got it, in a sense, I didn't know what to do with it, and I was mistrusting of it. And that's part of those beliefs and stuff that I have to still have to unravel more. But love was elusive to me, and it was really almost just a fantasy. And learning to love myself more deeply has allowed trust, an extra layer of trust anyway, to come in and to learn to kind of like open to love from others, open to love from, I've always been connected to source. So that's always where I've gotten my love from. But like this idea of human love was beyond me. So yeah, this self-love piece for me has really helped me to step more deeply into relationship and on all with varied people, community and included, friends. I have more capability to stay with some discomfort I'm feeling when I'm in connection. I get to notice when I'm feeling anxious around connecting, and other things like that. So love feels more tangible now, and I'm able to receive it from a multitude of places in my life.
Yes, yes. I think we all start out, with somewhat disconnected from that love, and then we have the neediness, to get it from other people, and we all do that to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And I think this journey is such a beautiful reminder that fountain of love is first and foremost inside of you, and how you can honor that and realize that. And once you can feel that and experience that, it's automatically makes more sense, in relationships as well. And
Yeah.
to be able to do that, we have to break down a lot of obstacles and mental obstacles and internal obstacles. Like one of the that you mentioned is the idea of this happily ever after, and how relationships should
Yeah.
look like, and you should be always happy go lucky, and all this kind of BS that we are growing up and is poured into our heads all the time, right? And then we have this unrealistic expectation, right? And when our relationship doesn't look like that, we are like disappointed and sad, and we feel like a failure,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that, because that's what it's all about.
Mhm.
I would like to ask you a little bit about the container, because that was quite a commitment, like 15 months, and we had weekly session, well, bi-weekly, weekly, like kind of as frequent as we could have. How was, like, what do you think about the container in terms of safety and ethical integrity?
I mean, I felt very well supported. And it was like imperative that I kind of be able to like adjust things with you or reach out to you if I felt a little bit in some crisis of some sort, or the notes that you provided and the other kinds of supportive efforts were very much ethical. I didn't have any major problems. I think our kind of relationship throughout was also echoing the things that I was working on, internally, like asking for what I need and boundaries and things like that. Like, and that was part of the process. I very much love your approach, and I respect it highly. I think that it's a beautiful container, because this medicine, like I mentioned before, is like it's an ongoing process. It's like we know with all the medicines, like there's always something that kind of comes back around, but I think ayahuasca there's such depth to it that we need to reflect often on how it's affecting our life, how the information and messages that were revealed to us during the ceremony are impacting and shifting things for us in our current day, which could be 11 months down the road from the ceremony. So Yeah, I very much felt held and encouraged, and the mirror was held up, too, like in a kind and gentle way, but like, I every once in a while you'd be like, hey, look at that, and I would be like, oh yeah, that sucks. But I think that's part of the ethical piece I'm talking about, because that third party perspective is so important to what we're doing. So yeah, I really loved all of it.
Thank you, sister. Yeah, it was a pleasure and an honor to work with you as well. And I have this question that I always wanted to ask, that because you work with other tools, other approaches, other medicines as well, can you put into words in any ways like how is working with this particular medicine is different, from other approaches or other substances?
Kind of sorting out like the different different medicines. Well, I'll kind of maybe verbally sort through them a little bit too. So ketamine is kind of usually anyway uplifting, right? It kind of takes us out of the muck and the mire briefly, enough to feel a little bit of a foundation. Mushrooms are so good at kind of going into that like underworld and the kind of shit that we sit in, and the it goes into the darkness and into the mire and the muck, because that's where mushrooms form, is the underground mycelia. And so we have to kind of be prepared for that. And MDMA is a lot more like expanding, right? So like you're in expansion, it's easier to connect, like there is a lot of love there and things like that, and a sense of openness. While all those medicines have their own gifts and their integration process are their own, right? And that we do spiral back around to things from those experiences and sessions. Ayahuasca is like I've said it, here a couple times now. It is the medicine that just keeps on giving. If we keep it in our atmosphere, if we're attentive to it, if we're noticing, right? And like, yes, we can do that with other medicines, but like there's a different kind of like quality and power if we allow it in. I almost see the vine as like an umbilical cord, and yeah, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm getting this life force, this life blood from the great mother, and she is so supportive and nurturing me. So we have to grow up. We have to grow, and it's a maturation process, and it's kind of lengthy, and that's okay because it serves us.
So beautifully said. I
Mhm.
feel also that, if you do put in the necessary work, your part, because that's what many people are missing. I think they just put it all in the medicine to do the work. But if you're taking that responsibility and you're making that commitment to put this work, I think you can cultivate an ongoing relationship with the medicine even without drinking. I so
Yeah.
feel like that I'm connected to that energy, to that essence, and it keeps helping me, over time. So it was so beautiful, the way you said that. What would you say to people who are thinking about embarking on a plant medicine journey with the Mother Ayahuasca? What would be your kind of advice for them before they dive into this journey?
I think preparation is essential. It's not just about like going into the Maloka and drinking a cup of something. There's a lot that you really want to understand about the process and the place where you're at and how it's being facilitated, by whom and what is their way? Is it rooted in ancient cultures, in indigenous practices, or is it something else? And how does it resonate with you? How will it serve your process? And so kind of knowing the guidelines per se of the actual ceremony is important, but also like preparing our psyche, right? We have to get into a mode of being able to receive what the medicine's gifting us. And so that takes its own kind of like process. I think we spent 3 or 4 months prepping. And before I even reached out to you, I had done a lot of my own prep work. Luckily, I know to do that, but still, like, there is just so much there in that preparation work. And then what I would say is integration is a lot of where the magic occurs. It's just not a one and done thing. You can do that, but you're not going to get near as much out of it, out of the ceremony, out of the medicine, out of what you think you're working on, if you want to do it, one and done it. So what I look for and what I looked for in my own process is this place where I can start like seeing my behaviors change, not just on the inside, but on the outside, right? Like I might shift my attitudes for a while, but I haven't actually changed my behavior. So I look for that indicator. I look for other kinds of outward experiences that have shifted, i.e., my own ability to connect with others or sit with discomfort. I kind of knew that I was done with, that I felt complete with the container in that time frame anyway. When I felt like I was driving the boat, like I could sit in the seat of like, okay, I've got this, and then I'm no longer like being swept away in the current of the river or the feelings and emotions or the over analyzation or like, oh, here I am, I got it, and I'm on the road and it's going smoothly. So yeah, that's what I would share.
Well, absolutely. That's what I say, that integration is basically turning your insights into behavior.
Yeah.
Because, you might come out from the ceremony and you have this amazing aha moments or realizations, not even necessarily so, because a lot of the insights came after. Yeah,
Yeah.
there was a lot of the insights that were not received or revealed, during the ceremony. But let's say, there are insights that you take away from the ceremony. It doesn't mean that you can act upon them, yeah, and embody them and turn it into behavior. That's the real work, to turn it into behavior, to kind of embody and anchor it into your everyday life. And the container, I'm so happy that you said, what you said, because this is what the container is for, to provide that support and guidance and safety to people until they feel that they are empowered enough to navigate on their own. They feel confident, they feel at ease, exactly as you said. And then you continue, because it's a never-ending journey, right? But you are not relying on that outside support anymore, because you have your resources and your experience and support and internal guidance, and that's exactly why we are doing this. So good here, that was your experience. What is your vision for psychedelic therapy in general for the future, as also somebody who's a provider in this field?
Well, part of my process is also like shifting how I approach my work, my offerings, and really recognizing that, that the structure that I provide for others has to be structured within myself first, right? Like, and so the scaffolding I think that I was working on before has now like really created something bigger. Psychedelic therapy is not for everyone, I'll just say that. But for the people who have the inclination or the desire to actually do this process that we're talking about today, right? Like this larger process. I've never known anyone who hasn't received what they were wanting to receive in the first place, if there is that devotion and commitment to the process. And so that's what I really want to encourage people, others, and remember myself, because I forget, right? Like, but like staying with it, staying with the process, trusting the process, trusting that like those intentions that I created will be attended to. They may not be, like starkly answered in the ceremony, but they're going to be attended to in one way or another in the process. So I'm just so grateful that you know, laid this foundation and created this structure that I needed to journey through the process.
Thank you, sister. Yeah, absolutely. I so resonate with everything that you're sharing. And I think a lot of people who call to psychedelic therapy, they are looking for those breakthrough results. That's the main, ooh, so exciting, right? But as you said, we need that openness, willingness, commitment to
Yeah.
our process to do the necessary work that cannot be bypassed without any medicine. And then we need, the help of the plant spirits, and also we need a container, and we need for at least the beginning external guidance and support until we learn to navigate this new terrain that is not in our culture, not in our history. There's something that we are learning continuously. So beautifully said. Where can people find you? People who are interested to work with you? Do you have a website?
I do. For those in Colorado and a number of other states, I'm at Soulful Relationships Psychotherapy. Luckily, soon I will be an official state providing mushroom facilitator. Work with ketamine already, and I'm poised to work with MDMA in the future when we get all the approvals we needed. But yeah, I primarily work with a lot of shadow work and archetypal energies, and along with that, like complex trauma, and I'm a sex therapist, so I work with sexual things in varied ways, including sexual trauma. And so relationship to the self, right? Like this process has been so integral to my own practice and offerings because I've been able to sink into myself more deeply. And so while I've always worked with relationship to others and the self, I'm like, that what is it called? Imposter syndrome, right? So at the beginning of this, I was having a lot of, before I went to ceremony, I was having a lot of imposter syndrome because I was having challenges in my own life around relationship. So on the other side, I feel a lot more confident in my work, a lot more confident in myself. And, I have deeper empathy for others who are struggling. And that depth of that depth of empathy is I think a really beautiful gift that I can give my clients. So I'm using it as a strength now instead of a weakness.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. We're gonna share the website and any other contact details that you're willing to share. We're gonna put it into the description so people can reach you and work with you if they feel the calling. And yeah, for people who are just at the beginning of their plant medicine path and they are feeling the call, but they are still searching and preparing, for their first journey, we have a free ebook, Plant Medicine Safety. Everything you need to know before you go into a ceremony. It's free. You can download it from my website, avatarhealingarts.com. So go and download this book because I wish I would have known this 12 years ago. And somebody would have told me all this. So it's all the wisdom that I gathered over a decade. And this is like a gift of love from me to you. So go to our website and download this free ebook, and see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening, and leave a comment if you enjoyed this episode. Help us grow our community by sharing this episode with your friends and subscribe to our channel to receive the latest on ayahuasca-assisted therapy. To embark on your healing journey or to start a new career in psychedelic-assisted therapy, go to my website, avatarhealingarts.com, and get in touch. And of course, stay tuned for the next episode.